All right, we are about 3 after. I will go ahead and get things started today. So welcome to Imprivata's Identity Governance Office Hours. We are excited to have our customers here today. This will be an hour-long session. Just so you're aware, we are going to go ahead and record the front half of this. So we will start off with an Imprivata, just kind of welcome introductions to our team here, and then we will go right into today's session. So as we mentioned when we sent out this invitation, this is to really highlight some of the new things, new enhancements added in our most recent release, which is Identity Governance 6.5. So that came out at the very end of March. So we're going to share an overview, show you a little bit of a demo of it, and really look for your questions and provide some feedback on it. And then the second half of today's session will really be dedicated to our customers attending today's session. So this will be an open forum. We have a large IDG team here on the Imprivata side. So we'd love to hear your questions, comments, feedback, share some best practices. We really want this to be as interactive as possible. So with that being said, let me go ahead and do a quick intro to some of our key IDG resources on the line. So to start off, my name is Whitney Ashby. I'm a Senior Customer Success Account Manager here at Imprivata. Also with us, we have Christine Roker. So she is our Principal Product Manager for IDG. We also have Jay Conley, so Director Emerging Technology Services. Jamin Patel, our Director of Product Management for IDG. And then we also have 2 of our sales engineers for IDG, so John Delcato and Paul Pettit. So again, we have our team here. We want to make this as interactive as possible. So all lines, you are probably double muted, just a heads up. So if you have a question, want to speak up, provide some feedback for our team, please go ahead and go off mute and let us know your questions. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hand things over to Christine, and we'll get started with the 6.5 overview.
Great.
Can I jump in, Christine, really quick? Sorry. I'm not sure if you mentioned this, Whitney, but please input any questions you have or comments in the chat. We'll also be monitoring that as well.
Perfect.
Awesome. Can you see my slides? Yes, awesome. Okay, so I have just one slide, and then we'll jump into a demo of 6.5. So I just wanted to summarize everything quickly before we jump into a demo, and then kind of everyone's looking instead of at the new stuff instead of looking at all the features that in one little list. So 6.5 was really based off of a ton of customer feedback, and a lot of it related to the way that the industry is changing. A lot of identity access management is getting pushed heavily on IT. COVID really enhanced the burden. But what we're seeing is a lot of end users, managers need a way to request access on behalf of their direct reports and also on behalf of themselves. So a lot of the changes went in for 6.5 around really rejuvenating that experience for our end users. We also added in profile image management. So this came in from customers that were looking to add security around user changes, where they wanted to have that positive ID before the changes were made. They also want to be able to support downstream systems and have all the same images across all of their apps. So I'm sure in your own organization, you see just, you have different pieces of software, just like we have here at Imprivata. We have our Slack, our Teams, our other sources where everyone has a different image, because we allow the end user to update them. And what a couple customers came to us and said is like, we don't really want end users to be able to change their profile pictures, especially when patients are logging in and seeing them. They wanted the same image that's on the website, on their badge, and also inside the applications. So this is the beginning of that. We'll talk through the support of that feature in a couple minutes. We also look to making forms easier. So this is one area where we've enhanced the application configuration tool in the past, but we took it a step further and made it easier for you to help your end users throughout the forms. So we now have support for contextual dropdowns. So when you enter in one field, you'll see that the data changes in other fields. So it's a little more responsive. We added in help text so that you can help your users with like a little hover over or a little help text underneath the fields. We made the manager experience a little bit easier, where when they log in, they can see their direct reports without having to go and scroll through or do any searches. We know that a manager, they have a limited view already. Why not just show them exactly what that view is so they don't have to go searching every time they come in. We also simplified the marketplace with the licensing. If anyone has any questions, we can answer those later. And then role management, obviously an area where we released this about 2 years ago. We're always going to take feedback and make changes and make it easier and better. So there are some things that we can touch on later in that area. Okay, so let's jump into a demo. Okay, so first I'm logged in as myself. I'm an administrator in the system. Also just pointing out already that user image, we took advantage of having it in the system, and now I can see not only my username, but I can see my image as well when I'm logged in. When I go to user management, the layout is now different. So we got rid of all the search buttons, and this doesn't change any of your search criteria that you have in your environments. All of the options are here. Some of you on the phone actually help participate in the design testing with our UX team, so thank you. And I hope what you see today excites you and your feedback came very useful to us. So I'm going to search for all users in a particular facility. And now as it's displaying, I now have images of the users. We changed just the colors. You can clearly see if the users are in an active or different other states. I can expand the row and see all the details that are important to the organization. So if you had a lot of feedback, a lot of results coming back from your user search, they would all be here in this row now, as opposed to in that table where it's very hard to read what's happening because there's so many columns. Actions are in line with our user, so available actions only, so it doesn't just show you everything, it's only what is available. So all the permissions are built in just like they were on in an earlier release. If I click on a user now, it takes me to a new view user screen. We did maintain support for your view user, and we left that as the primary tab here. We just wanted to have that seamless experience for your current users. If they're used to seeing that information up front, we wanted to maintain that flexibility for you. On the left, you'll see that this is another area where you get to customize by just saying what fields you want here. Now, this area on the left will be eventually in our next release where we store our job information for the user. So if they have more than one set of quote user attributes in the system, we will store those as jobs and they'll be listed there. So for 6.5, we made this just so we were using a field that's already there in the provisioning configuration to make that really easy for you to set up and show what you want over here. It could be a little redundant based on what you had in your user details. So hopefully that will make your user details a little bit cleaner and more concise. On the applications tab, we can see the application, we can see the description of the application, the status of the application, all inline actions that you can take on your applications. You also have what you already had in earlier releases, to show if the application is out of role for the user. So there's different flag options here, different statuses on here where you'll see if it's the entitlements are out of role or if the application is out of role. So the top two were applications out of role. This bottom one is saying that there's entitlements that are out of sync with their role. So this is easily showing me where their fields are out of sync with their role, what we're expecting. You still have the ability to attest to this. So and what you'll see is this will turn the application from gray to green. So this is now saying that someone has come in and approved that this out of role change. You won't lose the flag altogether because it's still considered out of role, but you'll have this indicator saying that there's a reason why this user has access outside of the role. Anything that has a pending, it has a special, it's color coded so that you can see what it's waiting on. Any of the steps, what it's waiting on, who it's waiting on is all available just like it was before. If I want to add a new application, the list has the name and the descriptions. This makes it easier for your non-IT users to find what they're looking for. So if I was looking for a, let's see, a communication app, I could jump and just type communication. So I might not know the name of the app. This comes really in handy when you have like Epic EMP SCR and just things that they might not know what they're looking for. The search is now a little bit more enhanced to be able to tell you what you're looking for. If there was an app that I was missing for my role, it would have already been blue and have a little role indicator. You'll see as soon as I try to add an application that's out of my role, I'm already getting the indicator to tell me, hey, what you're adding here is not part of this user's role. The audit history tab has been revamped. So as you're looking through, I can see the steps. It's going to clear the screen. So I'm looking at one transaction at a time. We also lifted the limit. Before we were only showing 40. Now this is an endless scrolling list. So you'll get back however far back in history for this user that you need to see. The permissions tab was redone. This user is an end user, so they have no permissions in IDG, but if they did, they'd be clearly listed here. And then the delegation has moved to the permissions tab. The profile image support. So I can see the last 5 images that have been changed for the user. This is a separate permission. So if the user has view user and manage images, they will be able to edit the images from the UI. We do have support for imaging from Trigger, so you can use Trigger to load in all the images. You can also use Active Directory sync. So the sync technology that runs every hour, when you get to 6.5, we'll bring in images. If you have them already in Active Directory, we'll just bring them into IDG. And we also support, if you did bring something in from Trigger, or if an image was changed in IDG, it would flow down to Active Directory. So we did enhance our Active Directory bridge to support imaging as well. And this would just allow you to pick a new picture here. You can crop the picture, so there's a basic image support that you'd see in other modern apps. All right, so that brings me to logging in as, actually let's log in as a manager now. So I got Mark Smith here. And when I go to user management for Mark Smith, my 19 direct reports are showing. Mark Smith also has no permissions to manage user identities. So you can see all of he has no actions available on the right side. You can still see the information about the user and still click into the user. And has access to the applications and audit history, but you'll notice that he doesn't have access to permissions. So with the manager view, in any profile actually, so for any profile that you build now, you have the option to turn it into a manager profile so that we would show the direct reports automatically. It would also, you also have the ability to hide and show the audit history tab as well as the permissions tab. So we know that there's maybe, like password change information that you don't want to be visible, or PHI and the audit trail that you don't want visible, as well as permissions. Like it could just be, managers don't need to know what permissions they have because users don't have any permissions, so the tab is useless. So you have a little more flexibility on the view inside user management now. Okay, so I did want to go back to the admin for one moment, just to go through the create user and show some of those forms and the enhancements around that. So let's go ahead and create a new user. So here's an example of those contextual dropdowns. So as I pick employee, now I can see my facilities. If I picked one facility, I'd see the departments that are part of that facility. If I pick a different one, you'll see that those change. And then based on what I choose for the different departments, you'll see the job codes change. We're not probably, yeah, there's one that does something different. We're very generic when it comes to our job codes to keep this simple. Okay, so let me pick here. I'm just gonna go through the rest of this. Okay, so here's an example of that role. All of my apps have been selected based off of my role. I can add additional ones and then go on. So this is going to bring me through just your typical application forms here, but you can notice that there's some help text options that are allowing me to provide the user some more information about what they need to do. All that contextual logic can be used throughout all your application forms as well. Okay, so now we can see our users created, all the applications, which ones are still pending. And then I can also choose an image for Yvonne and save that. So that is the manager view, the admin view. So let's go in last as our new user that we just created. And show you what the end user would see. So we did change the view here, so it looks very similar to the user management experience. User details is exactly the way it would have been on your self-service today. We've included the information on the left-hand side. All the actions are available that the user has. On the applications tab, they can see their applications, the status. They still can change if it's set up for modifications. This would take them right into a modification form. I have this set up so on self-service, it's just asking them what they need to be changed. This would route to their approval, and the approval who would go through and actually make the appropriate changes for the user. Same thing with passwords. If I wanted to change my Active Directory password, all of these options are still there. Nothing's changed there. And then for add access, this takes them into this same form. If you allowed them to interact with the form, they would see it. And then that would go off to get an approval. Any questions around 6.5 and the changes that you've seen so far, or anything I didn't mention that you wanted to bring up around this feature?
Hey, Christine, for the manager view, when you guys set that by default based on that span of control, are they still able to search for users outside of that direct reporting structure, or are they locked into that?
No, we did it. The user search is still separate. So if you had it configured to limit their view, then it would remain confined, or it's open to anyone for searching. So this is separate.